Good afternoon. My name is Amy Gata, and I am with the Sub-Zero Mid-Atlantic Group. I am the trade rep for Maryland, DC, and Virginia, and I'm going to introduce this wonderful group. In this section of our tracks today, this is about community marketing in 2021. So first, we are going to start off with our facilitator, Frank Mumolo. He has a PhD, PE Managing Director of MCA Consulting Services. Then we are going to move over to Jenn Zschunke. She is with Moss Building and Design. She's the Director of Customer Experience and Community Relations. Then we have George Hodges-Fulton, Certified Pinnacle Business Guide and a Certified Exit Planning Advisor of GHF LLC. And last but not least, Jason Reese, the Mid-Atlantic Pro Market Manager from the Tile Shop. So welcome everybody, and we are going to hand this over to Frank. Take it away.
Hello all, and to some of you, hello again. We're going to be doing a session this afternoon, as was said, on community marketing, and I'd just like to get a quick read from everybody. When you hear the words community marketing, what do you think? What do you think it is?
Nobody knows. That's why they're in here.
Trade marketing ones are trade members.
Tough room. I'm sorry, what?
Marketing ones, our community are trade members.
Local. Yeah, absolutely. That wasn't a trick question. Okay. So what we'd like to do is give you a quick overview of some of the things we want to cover, and then we want to get your ideas if there's anything in particular that you want to hear about. And then we'll turn it over to the redoubtable and illustrious assemblage that you see in front of you. We're going to be talking about some of the techniques we use, some of the techniques we don't use, how to execute. We're going to get an exchange of good ideas, bad ideas, talking about how to identify referral partners, and how to use leverage in the community marketing program. It's very non-traditional, as you will see. So does anybody have any topic in particular that they wanted to cover a little bit more specifically than those generalities? Anybody here doing community marketing? Social media. Okay, that could count. Depends on where you do it. Anybody else? Okay, good. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? Oh, he's scratching his head. Okay. Okay. So some of you are already doing it. So I would like to throw a question out to our panel here and see what are some of the elements that make up a community marketing program. Anyone? Shy George?
Yeah, well, we can agree that doesn't apply. Yeah, I mean, I'll mention sort of one or two things. So for me personally, and my background, I was at BOA for about 14 years. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, the point of this is that I really believe in an approach that marketing is not just a department. It's not just, sort of one or two people who are required and pushing this forward in our organization, that everybody needs to be involved in that. And so when I hear the word community marketing, it's more sort of saying, okay, well, what's the grassroots marketing that people outside of the marketing department are doing for our organization? And some of us may refer to that as sort of guerrilla marketing, if you will, getting down into there. So sort of taking it from there. But I'll pass it along to the panelists and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I appreciate it, George. From my perspective, and one of the main things I try to instill in the associates in our showrooms is always trying to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, right? That's when we think grassroots, on all sides of the business, from in dealing with professional sector, keeping in mind that something goes sideways, well, that could lead to a loss of a day's wages for somebody. If something shows up broken and you don't catch it right away, you don't work to remedy it right away. For your clients, our shared clients perspective, this is this remodel, this new construction. This may be the only time in their lives that they're undertaking something like this. So this, for them, is an extremely important thing. And we all have dealt with wide ranges of clientele. Some are a little more involved than others, some or that we would like them to be. But keeping in mind that even those tougher clients, this is their making their dream come to life. So, and providing that experience, that grassroots side of things, that does marketing for you. Because most people will only complain when they have a bad experience or an outstanding experience, and that's the only time you really hear from them. So that's really what we try to instill through our organization, at least here in this region.
So for Moss, we've actually never done traditional advertising or marketing. We don't generally take out ads in newspapers. We don't advertise in newsletters. We have done home shows, of course, in the past, which have really been helpful. But something that began with our marketing department about 10 years ago was something we called community relations. And that was literally getting involved in the community where we work, giving back to those organizations that mean something to our customers. We donate hundreds of organizations every year, whether they be school, or pet organizations, veterans. We're really focused on those in our community that we service that can help benefit from our donations and sponsorships. But it's not only donating the funds, it's actually actively being a part of those events that we do. So it's going to the 5Ks, running the 5Ks, which I got to do this summer, and I actually placed 4th in my age group, which sounds impressive until there were about 7 women in my age group. But it's being involved and showing up and showing that this organization means something to us at Moss. We want to help you because you trust us. So it develops a long-term relationship with the community, and thus then those within the community remember us from those community initiatives and reach out to us as new customers. So it's a win-win. It makes you feel great to do community marketing. It really gives you you get out there and you see the change that you're helping do, but then at the same time your business grows because people remember you from those initiatives. So for us, it's a grassroots organization. We used to do workshops, and I'm starting one up again called Handy Mom 101, where we take the materials and we teach moms and women how to do small home improvement projects to educate and empower them. That's another way to reach that demographic, because we realize that's our demographic for Moss and our work. So that's what community marketing means and what we do. And I'm obviously very passionate about it. And I've been with Moss for 8 years doing this work. And I love that we are continuing to make such an impact on the local community. But that's what community marketing means. That's my definition. So is my green light still on? Excellent. I didn't turn the microphone off.
So the next question I would ask of the group and anybody in the audience, what techniques do you use to put your message together so that you're saying something important to the community? In addition to participating, which is building the relationship, what do you say to them?
First,
No, you go right ahead.
Well, I think again, it's a little bit of the classic know your audience, right? So I do believe, and again, this is where I would get away from sort of quote classic marketing and sort of branding and messaging out into the marketplace to being very intentional with the message that you're in front of, right? So for me, that messaging needs to be sort of delivered. I always considered it had to be a two-way interaction, right? So as opposed to sort of classic marketing of us pushing things out there, doing one-page ads in the magazines and Home and Design and so forth. That's great. That's marketing. But for me, that grassroots marketing was getting my sales team out in front of past clients and having conversations with them and sort of interacting two ways, and not just sort of asking for the referral, but hey, who do you know in your network that might, sort of need our services, that type of thing. So it wasn't so much that there was a canned message. It was more about sort of having those interactions, reminding your clients that frankly, you're still in business, right? A lot of us sort of tend to forget about that our clients had an experience with us. And if we don't stay in front of them and ask them for referrals, then they're not in the business of keeping us in business, right? We need to go and interact with them, maybe provide them some handyman services, things like that. Again, just come up with an excuse to call them with authenticity and remind them, of the great work that you and your organization did.
Thank you. I want to piggyback on something you said, about it being a two-way street. I think it's important to not only get your message out and get your message across, but to listen to what's coming in. Either in an individual basis for a particular project, or more broadly in dealing with the professional sector, excuse me, in maintaining and growing those relationships. Everyone should receive some sort of communication periodically, whatever that time frame is based on how much you guys have to do. You want to stay in touch with folks, stay in front of them, and see what else there is. What other services can you provide? What else can we do to be better? Simply, what else? What do you need? What can we do to help facilitate that? But it has to be a two-way street. It has to be an open line of communication back and forth. It cannot just come from one side. Otherwise, you're getting a little salesy there. It's a little too much. So that's where we're coming from here on this.
I'm going to triple piggyback on this. And I think the phrase I'm thinking of as I was listening to the gentleman up here would be, we sincerely authentic would be a phrase that I truly think means a lot to not only our customers, but also internally to our employees to want to be involved and support these initiatives. We don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. We developed a massive event last September when schools were going to be virtual. And when we found this young man in the community who was building desks out of his garage, we partnered with him. We got Lowe's involved. We had a bunch of other partners. So not only you're mentioning the trade partners, but also our entire staff came in to build desks, 60 desks for kids who didn't have them in their homes, and distributed throughout Fairfax and Loudoun County. So it's like, I think being sincerely interested, and we are sincerely vested, but also another side of that is, as director of customer experience, I speak to our customers all week long, from the beginning of the time of their process to the end. They know they can trust me to come back with them, and I always ask them, what's important to you as far as nonprofits? What's meaningful to you? And we always do our best to communicate and be very transparent with them as far as what we can help support that's meaningful to them. And then they realize again that they can trust us not only with their homes, which are of course very personal, but also with events and organizations that are meaningful to them. So I'm not sure if I actually answered the question, but I'm just sharing experiences as far as here. So maybe next time I'll go first next time so I don't forget.
I did try to mix it up and pass it off. So, because this can be a one-man show. Let's be very clear, right?
Trust me, he's not kidding. So we talked about relationship, and we talked about involvement in building, trust. I don't want to hijack this, but I was asked to make this comment that we had our prep session. I personally believe it's very important in marketing to fire a laser and not a shotgun. And in order to do that, you need a target. So I would share my experience that, for those of you who don't know, in General Electric, their top executives, and I don't know if you've ever been in a company like that, these guys work 80 hours a week. They have no life. They spend 50% of their work week out in the field talking to customers, trying to really understand what's keeping them awake at night so that they can fire that laser instead of just, here's 30 refrigerators and 4 jet aircraft engines and a finance arm and all of that. So very important and I think you were heading in that direction, Jason, with the two-way street and, let's find out what they're doing out there. Okay, so we've got the relationship, we got the trust, we got the ability to gather information for the messaging, the authenticity. And now the question is, having put your message together based on this research, how do you communicate it? How do you get it out there? We know what the traditional marketing methods are. Is that what you plan on doing here in a community, or is there something more personal and special? And I'm going to let you go first, Jen, so please pass there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it still on? I'm good. Well, obviously, we use digital marketing to an nth degree. We have a dedicated teammate who handles all of our social media marketing. We showcase testimonials from our customers on video and audio. We have beautiful befores and afters. But I think a lot of that begins with, again, for example, customer experience, starting from the very beginning, once a project contract is signed, is to begin that relationship building. So starting from the very beginning of the signing all the way through the end of the process, and listening and being aware of what customers is important to them, and letting them know that you're there for them one-to-one, because remodeling in someone's home is obviously very personal. I myself just had my kitchen remodeled. I think I mentioned that today, this winter, obviously by Moss, but thankfully, because I had 3 children at home doing virtual school upstairs and a dog and a baby gate, and I did a lot of meetings from the hallway or the bathroom, sitting on the floor. But none was the wiser if it was elsewhere. But the messaging is also really, it's got to be strategic, like you said, and it's got to be, we have, newsletters that we send out. I keep in touch with all of our customers as customer experience manager. If someone's had a baby, I send them a DoorDash, especially if it's their child number 2 or 3, because that is the best thing to give for a larger family, because they don't want to have to just, cook at all. So give them a night off from that. Tell them you're thinking about them. Remodeling is happening while they have a baby. You definitely want to think about them. We send flowers for a bereavement. We do things like that. We keep in touch. We're very personal. So I think it's that approach that's made us kind of special and slightly different. And it's sincere. And I truly do want to help families, not only through their remodeling, but also through things that are important to them. I like to get off track. I'm really sorry. Thank God there wasn't wine earlier.
There's wine now?
Right, yeah. What?
I got like 4 water bottles. Right here.
Don't
Don't
be
you
fooled
see
by
the little straw coming from my back pocket? Yes.
Getting message out. Okay. Well, we are definitely very involved in the social media aspect of everything. Obviously, you can't be in business right now without being involved in the social media side of things. But again, it comes back to those one-to-one connections, where you building those relationships off of. And I'm in a little bit of a different position here because I'm on the vendor side of things. So we're seeing it from both sides, right? We're seeing it from building those relationships and networking off of the relationships we do have, but also on the client side of things. I will say, every single new professional that signs up with an account, opens an account with the tile shop, receives a phone call from me personally. And then a follow-up phone call after that from whichever showroom they signed up in, or they've indicated they prefer to work with. The idea is letting you know that your business is what's important to us, and taking care of your clientele is what's important to us. And it's done on a very personal level. It's not just through an email blast. It's not just through something on Facebook or Instagram or what have you. While those are definitely important avenues that everybody has to take advantage of these days, the connection comes on that one-on-one level, and that's where we look to build off of. You will then hear from me if you haven't started an account with the tile shop. You will not only hear from me initially, but then you'll hear from me a few months down the road. Make sure we're taking good care of you. Again, is there anything else that we can provide for you, or that you didn't get that you need to fulfill what you're the goals you're trying to achieve? So that's the way I would say we're tackling that.
Yeah, so I'll take a little different approach. I'm not strong in the digital side of marketing, and so I'm glad to hear that Jenn is, and she can provide some experience share there. I'm more of a eyeball to eyeball, belly to belly. Let's knock on the front door. Let's talk to people type, sort of marketing. And what I mean by that is that I kind of have these sayings, and my old sales team would call them Georgisms. But I used to say, look, you need to collect the dots so you can connect the dots. And what I mean by that is when you're visiting with a client and they say, oh, I'm struggling with X, Y, or Z. Oh, well, let me introduce you to a past client of mine who did X, Y, or Z, that sort of thing, right? And so it's not even about me asking for a referral. It's just about me adding value to their life at that particular moment in time. And that's very impactful, right? So having these conversations, again, making sure they're authentic, and then gathering the data and having a mechanism in which you're storing that data. So while I'm not strong on the sort of digital marketing side, I would say I'm very strong in using the CRM, collecting the data, making sure that I have notifications of, the sort of standard ones, birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, that sort of thing. But what about kids that are coming up on graduation, high school graduation? All right, if I reach out to somebody on March 15th and say, look, you're probably going to have a graduation party in a non-COVID time. What could we do to make your house better? Can I give you 4 hours of handyman service? That's just marketing, right? That's just me reaching out and providing value to them to help them get their house ready for a graduation party, that sort of thing, right? So just sort of collecting that information and using it to provide you an opportunity to reach out and have that conversation is what I like to do. And the other thing I'll say is we need to ask for referrals. We tend to forget that just because we're in front of clients. That doesn't